Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 35 of the 5th Meeple Board Game Podcast. We're a group of diverse friends who offer our takes on the latest and greatest board games to hit our table. I'm your host, Daniela, the goofy noob, and I am joined today by the collector.
Hey, this is David.
The intellectual introvert.
Hi, everyone. This is Chris.
And Deluxeifier.
Hello, it's Pete.
Today we head undercover and dive into the cloak and dagger world of secrecy and deception. We'll start our assignment out in the field, identifying agents and avoiding assassins as we engage in espionage in Codenames. Then it's back to headquarters as we noodle on numbers and collect copious clues, attempting to crack the code in Decrypto. And finally, because we just can't help ourselves, we pit spy versus spy as we face them off against each other in our ultimate showdown, the Battle of the Funnest. But before we assume our aliases, David, what's our topic of discussion for today?
Yeah, so it's going to go along with these two games, but how do you guys get people that don't ever want to play a game to play a game with you, especially like a game like we're talking about tonight, or, you know, we're coming up to the holidays. How do you get people off the couch to join in a game?
I promise them it's going to be short, even if it's not. Oh, come on, it's just real quick. Like, we need that person, you know, like if it's, I don't know, even if it plays up to 6-8 players, you're like, oh, we need one more person. I really try to, like, my dad will not play games. And so it's like, come on, just, you know, it's a fast game. Like, just give us 15 minutes and, you know, then you have them and they have fun at the end. I think they do. I think people are intrigued.
Yeah, so if you force them to play.
Yeah. Force fun.
Yeah, that's always a good one. That's a good option. That's a good option.
Yeah. I struggle with that. I am the intellectual introvert, and I'm introverted sometimes even with my family. I don't feel comfortable bringing something up that I'm not sure if they're going to want to do, and so I struggle with that. So I'm curious to hear what others have to say here today, because I could use some tips, because usually I sit around and then at the end of the night I say, man, I wish I would have brought that up. So.
I mean, I think you got to invite Daniela over to, you know, your holiday party, and then she could just force people.
Invite me to all your parties.
But yeah. I do think you need somebody like that, though, that is, you know, driving that, or else you'll just sit on the couch and just have those boring conversations.
And I think sometimes, I think people don't think they know how to play something. They may feel intimidated. You're not bringing out like a level 5 game type of thing, right? Like, you're going to bring out something that's a little bit more party, a little bit more fun. I mean, you've pulled out numerous games here, David, on the table that I'm like, what the heck is this game? Like Straw. Love Straw. It's great. Like, I like Spy Alley. Chris hates Spy Alley.
I do not like Spy Alley, no.
Chris loves The Crew. I'd prefer not to play it, but I will for him. So, you know, there's that love-hate relationship between some of the games. But you kind of learn people. You learn what they do and don't like. But if you're willing to try, I always think that's great. What do you think, Pete?
Well, I think if you got a game that people can just jump into and play, they don't have to be the main character in the game. You know, they can be a supportive role, or, hey, join me on my team. You know, what's your thoughts? And I think if you can bring them in that way, it's a good way to get them to the table and play a game and get them introduced to some of these games. And then you kind of keep taking it to the next level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We just played Flip 7, I think, this past Thanksgiving with my family. And, you know, I think it's always helpful if you have a game like that and you can relate it to them. So I know I have a lot of people that don't play games, but my family's pretty large. So I was like, if you know how to play Uno, they're like, raise their hand. They all raise their hand. I'm like, you know how to play Blackjack? They all raise their hands. I'm like, well, then you can play this game. I think if you could break it down for people and relate it to things that they play, it's a lot sometimes easier to get people off that couch too. But
and knowing those people as well, I think, you know, like if we were playing a word game or you're playing a mystery game, like I know I like to play a lot of those games where you're actively working to solve a mystery with my mom. We like doing a lot of those games as well.
Yeah, keep the game simple. Mm-hmm. That's another thing, too. Don't have an overly complicated game where there's too many rules or too much overhead.
That's probably your problem, Chris. You're bringing out like hard games.
Yeah,
like,
hey, you guys want to play Terraforming Mars? It's really easy.
Let's play a co-op and then Spirit Island comes out.
Well, we'll talk about a couple of games today, though, that are probably good options for people that aren't gamers that can very easily and very quickly, you know, get them up and running. At least, you know, okay, this isn't Monopoly. This is different. Yeah.
And honestly, if anybody's out there, if you're listening and you know of a great game that everybody that you've taught a game to likes, share it, give it to us. Maybe we have it, or maybe we can pick it up, or, you know, see if that works for our friends and family as well. All right. Thanks, David. So those are our opinions on how do you get people to play games when sometimes people don't want to play games. But again, we'd love to know what all of you out there have to say. And if you'd let us know by sending us an email at thefifthmeeple@gmail.com, you can follow us on social media or on our BGG Guild, or check out our website at thefifthmeeple.com. And before you forget, why not hit the subscribe button so you never miss a show? Also, this podcast isn't for your eyes only. So if you want to help us grow, one of the best ways is to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. And if you you do, we might just read one on a future episode. Now let's get our agents out in the field and start our surveillance of Codenames.
Codenames is a team-based word, deduction, and party game set in the world of international espionage. Spy masters and field operatives must make contact with their agents before the other side does, avoiding the dreaded assassin in the process. Codenames plays best with 4 to 8 players, but you can play with more if it's a cooperative bunch or with less using special rules. During setup, 25 cards, each with a single word representing an agent's codename, are placed on the table in a 5x5 grid. One player from each team is designated as the spy master and has access to the key card, which specifies the identity of each of the agent cards. Each card represents either a blue team agent, a red team agent, an innocent bystander, or the dreaded assassin. On your team's turn, the spy master gives a clue consisting of a single word followed by a number. This clue word in some way relates to one or more of the team's agents' codenames, and the number indicates how many agents are related to that clue. The field operatives then collaborate and choose agent cards one at a time that they believe the spy master was referring to. The spy master then places an agent, bystander, or assassin card on the code word according to the key. If the operatives correctly identified one of their agents, even if it wasn't one that the spy master intended, they can choose another codename card up to a number 1 greater than the number in the clue. If they identify a spy from the other team or an innocent bystander, their turn ends, and if the assassin is chosen, that team immediately loses. The first team to correctly identify all of their agents wins the game, but what they do after that is classified. Codenames was designed by Vlada Shevadl and was first published in 2015 by Czech Games Edition.
All right, thanks for that overview, Chris. So that's our summary on Codenames. So let's talk about this game. There's really not a lot of hard mechanics or anything in this game. Let's go through it. What are some of the things that we enjoy about this game? They've really gone to town on this game. They've created a ton of different variants, a ton of different types of games that are representative of this game and stuff. So what are some things that you guys wanted to bring up that you do like about Codenames?
I love the simplicity of it. I mean, there's not a lot of rules, although I will say that trying to teach someone to play the first time, a lot of times I just say, we're going to play around real quick. You'll see it and you'll get it rather than me try to talk through it. But once they get it, it's just, okay, you're done. There's not tons and tons of rules. And again, the complexity or the game is just in, okay, how clever can you get? And without being too clever to just totally baffle folks. And you're looking and it's really obvious to you, but they don't have that same connection. So I think it's just really interesting. Not many rules, but just a lot of gamesmanship. And okay, how do I find that perfect word?
Yeah, it's an easy game to jump into, especially if you are the guessor. Because when you're trying to come up with those clues, you can get a little AP. I know you're shaking your head over there. And I think that's the most difficult part of this game. So if you're experienced with it, I think that's a good way that you should start giving out the clues. And your other teammates on the other side of the table can really then talk amongst themselves and come up with the idea, what are you trying to communicate to it? So it's a good game. I enjoy it. And I like the table presence on it. It's very simplistic. It's fairly easy to see, and I do believe that they do have some that are just pictures now as well, where you can put the pictures out rather than the words. So that's another advantage. I know there's a lot of expansions for this game.
Yeah, we played a couple games of Codename Pictures as well, and it's definitely a different version of it. And because they're not just regular pictures, they're pictures with some weird stuff in there. But that allows you to give clues that could potentially apply to a number of different pictures legitimately. I think that was the first version actually I played before playing the real one.
Yeah, I mean, I like it because you could play with a lot of people. I mean, I think this game plays better at a higher player count when you're playing teams. There's that camaraderie that you can build. So, to me, it definitely, if you're looking for that team building kind of activity, this is something that I think will definitely help a group.
Yeah, I think overall with the game, it's a word game, right? So you have to be a little thinky. You have to play, I think, with people who like word games. If you like crosswords, if you like the New York Times, the crossword word searches or anything like that, I think this is going to be a good game for people who like that kind of a little bit of a puzzle, a little bit of thinking strategy. How can I pair these different words together to help my teammate and know like what I'm talking about? And it's just like a fun thinking game. If your brain is mush after a day of work or something like this is probably not the game, but it's a creative game. I think it gets the juices flowing if you wanted to open it up with a game for another harder game after it or something. But yeah, it's a good word game, I think. And if you like word games like Chris here, who has Word Garden.
I love word games.
Word Garden. He even created one. So if you want to check that out as well.
It's amazing how people think differently too. When somebody gives a clue, you may not be thinking of that at all. And then all of a sudden afterwards, they describe it and it's like, oh yeah, why didn't I see that? So that's kind of really cool about the game. You can give out clues, people can get it. You might be sitting next to somebody on the other team and they're like, oh, I know what he's talking about. So I think that's a very interesting to see inside somebody's mind on how they're actually thinking or how they make those mental connections with that word association with, apples to oranges or, horses to
and I think that's what makes the game kind of funny because you could look at your partner and be like, what? Like, how did you get, what are you thinking of? Or how did you come to that? Or, when we were playing the one time, there's a couple words on the player mat that we were like playing on. And I'm like, I didn't even see that word, like sometimes you're just kind of like overlooking certain things. And if their cards are faced a different way, like you kind of don't know what you're looking at. But overall, I think it's a good camaraderie game too as well.
And it can get a little crazier if you're behind. You're like, okay, we got to find a way. We need to get 3 this time, or we're going to totally get blasted. And so then it's okay. Well, how creative can I get? And the more creative you get, the more likely it is someone's going to misinterpret your clue or pick a wrong one. You mentioned, Pete, about analysis paralysis. I do think though you have to have at least a little bit of that extra analysis. I was reading online about some advice, and one of the things is always make sure before you give that clue, don't let it come out of your mouth until you look at the assassin word. And make sure that you can in no way lead you to that assassin word, and make sure there's no link. As okay, that was a perfect word for these 3, but they could think it's that assassin, and just end the game right there. So I just find that fascinating. I also like the little bit of tension when you say a word and then you realize someone could actually link that to the assassin, right? And they're just sitting there praying that they don't pick that, and that somehow you're sending them vibes not to choose the wrong one.
Yeah. Another neat thing about the game, too, is as it progresses, things get covered up. There's less words actually to associate with. So you can kind of stretch those connections then. As you said before, you can make one additional guess. Daniela says, applesauce, 2
I say
or
that
whatever. You have that ability to make that one extra guess. So earlier, on your prior turn, you might have missed one or picked the wrong one, and you can go back and then try to do that catch-up mechanic.
Yeah, you have this perfect clue that could get five words, but the 6th word over there belongs to them, and it might totally throw you off, right? As soon as that one's gone, now you got it.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think when you have them all out as well, as you're talking about, like as cards go away, like you can add more. I think if you say like, again, applesauce 5, and you can try and get 5 out there and done with, I mean, you're at a lead already too, if you can try and make those connections early.
Yeah, I mean, also, I think this game has a really good arc to it. It climaxes when it's supposed to. At the end, you really feel that tension.
That's important.
And that is something that I think it does really well. So at the beginning, you can kind of get stuff wrong if you want. As long as you don't get that assassin, it's okay. You're still in the game. But as that game continues to build, you feel that tension, you feel that pressure, which I think is a sign of a good game, especially at the end when, somebody guesses wrong, half the table's groaning, half the table's cheering. It's always a good sign of a good game.
And I think,
I was going to say the worst kind of game is when someone chooses the assassin right off the bat. It's like you barely started. It's over already. You never got anywhere close to the climax.
Yeah.
At least you can restart it really quick, or just reshuffle up.
Well, some people can. It's easier for some people than others. I don't know.
It's true.
Maybe wait an hour.
Maybe a half hour.
All right. Well, this game doesn't have a lot of, again, as we said, different mechanics that could really frustrate the game or things that you don't really like about the game. But let's talk about some of the things that maybe would frustrate others if you brought them in, if you taught them to this at a party game. I mean, right off the top of my head, I can think if someone doesn't like party games, I'm really not asking them to play this game. They're going to get frustrated. They're not going to be able to make word association games. If they're angsty and against playing a game, I'm not inviting someone to play this game because it's going to be a miserable time for them.
This is an odd party game because when I think of party games, initially, we talk about having a wild time, laughing, and that. This game, there's a lot of quiet downtime. And I think that's the one thing that I do dislike about the game a little bit is that you're sitting there just kind of poring over the board. Everybody's looking at it. You have the person giving the clue, and we're just waiting here, even 2 seconds like now. It's a long time.
Yeah.
And when you're playing that game, I enjoy more interaction in my games, and we'll get into that a little bit later, but I think that's probably the thing that I like least about the game. And again, it's nothing really bad about it.
Right.
I just think it's something that you got to accept when you're playing it, and that's the kind of game it is. So when you say or tell somebody this is a party game, it's not the laughing, jumping up and down.
Yeah.
It could be. There could be moments like that, but it's not all the time.
You're inviting a group of Chris's over.
Correct. I'm thinking that's perfect. This is perfect, Jeanette. Just sit there and shut up and stare at the board. But the other thing, too, if someone does make a monumental error, like, how did you do that? Then you can't even talk about it yet because you can't give anything else away about, well, this is why I did that clue until the game's already over. And so even when you might have one of those aha, really funny moments, you can't talk about it.
Yeah, you don't want to give anything away on the game. Oh, this is, this one's really tough. I don't know if this is going to work.
You're not allowed to do that.
You're not
Right?
allowed
The
to do
rules say you
that.
can't.
Yeah.
So, that interaction that in some games you can really take advantage of. In this game, you got to kind of stay on the narrow, and everybody kind of play by that same rule.
In my experience is people don't. And so they're constantly giving away little hints, even when they don't mean to.
Agree.
Right? And so maybe you gave a clue and there were 3 and they picked one you didn't mean to and they got it. You're like, oh. And so now they know that wasn't one of the ones.
Yeah.
And I read some things online to say, no, the opposite spy master should always be the one putting the card on. So that they take the guess, you don't respond at all. The other person says, oh, that was a blue or that was a red or whatever, so that you can't even say yes or correct or any kind of word that will give them an indication of that really wasn't what I meant. So there's more out there. And then there's other people that would do that on purpose because that's just how they are.
Yeah, know who you're playing with.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it can lead to analysis paralysis, especially for new players coming into this game. I would definitely not start them off as the spy master. I think you want somebody experienced that knows how to play the game to be that first person to go, because it can take some time, like Pete was saying. And I do tend to think that this game, in some ways, needs a timer. It can go on for a while.
I agree with that, because if you follow the rules, you're not talking to each other. And you're really, like as Chris said, you kind of, sometimes people are given like little hints and clues and you're going, as their hands are kind of like hovering over the different things. And I think if you follow the rules, you get to it, you go out there, you make your choices, you kind of, it needs to be a little snappier. I would say that, like, if you can control this game with the group that you're with, I think it would flow a little bit better. But if you're playing with a bunch of people who are like, oh, I got to think about this, I think that would be a good addition, David, to bring a timer and flip it and say, this is how much time you have to look. And after that, you're done, or you have to make your guess. It would be a
very different game. I mean, a lot more tension than typically. I don't think of this as one where it's stressful, but that would immediately be very stressful when I'm trying to tie 3 things together.
Espionage, spy, you got to be.
I guess so.
Okay, so let's talk about how much this game costs in case you're curious. Codenames has been around for quite a while, and it's a pretty popular game out there. You can find it at really a lot of mass market stores like Target or Walmart. Right now, you can buy it from Amazon. That's our go-to, just because we know everybody can go online and shop there. It's $19.94 right now. Normally, it's like $25, so it is on sale as the time of this speaking. But if you're looking for a secondary copy of this, there is a copy for $2 on Board Game Geek on the secondhand market right now, but that doesn't include the shipping. So I want to say, though, if you are going out there and you're looking for a copy of this game and you're looking for it used, you could probably find somebody willing to sell it to you, I want to say, for like $8 to $10.
All right, thanks for that overview. Let's hit our final thoughts on this game. Pete, I'm sure you're not deluxifying it.
No, there's not much to do with that.
Night vision goggles, play in the dark, or something like that. No.
If you do like it, get the expansions. It will open up the game more for you. So that's the one thing that I would do if this is a game that you enjoy and you're looking for more out of it. That's what I would do.
What do you think, Chris?
I like this game. This is a game that I have been able to, for example, get my wife to play with me if we're on vacation. Mm-hmm. Typically, when we would head down to Hilton Head a few years in a row, that's the game that I took a lot of games, but typically Codenames was the one I could convince my wife and the other folks in the room to play with me, because again, it's easy, but it's also quick, and you can play 1 or 2 times or however long you want. Mm-hmm. And if you had enough of it, it's not long before the game's over and you're done. And so I think it's a really good game for that type of situation. I enjoy it, and I also, as you mentioned, like word games, so this one's kind of up my alley.
Mm-hmm. What about you, David?
I get why this game is ranked number 5. I think, it does things in a compact package. There's a lot of word association games out there. I think this one does it very, very well, and it executes what it's trying to do. So if you like that kind of thing, I think this could be up your jam.
When you said ranked number 5, is that 5th ranked party game?
Yeah, 5th ranked party game of all time.
I think for myself, this is one of those games that I too, Chris, have we played this on vacation with some different family members and stuff. It's always a good time, and you, like you said, you could play it a couple times and you're good to go. And it was just a good camaraderie game. I think that all the expansions and everything kind of attest to how people like this game. Again, I think there's Marvel, there's Disney, there's a bunch of different ones you can play out there. So if anybody is interested in, kind of like a little I don't know, a wing of something that they enjoy, or Disney princesses or whatever that may be, this might be a game that you get someone interested in. Or, I don't know, maybe the library has it, you could rent it. But yeah, I think overall it's a great game. Well, guys, I think our cover's blown, so let's head back to HQ for a brush pass with Decrypto.
Decrypto is a 3 to 8 player word deduction and party game that challenges you to correctly interpret coded messages from your own team while cracking the codes you intercept from your opponent. During setup, each team places 4 keywords into their decoder screen, with each word then corresponding to a number between 1 and 4. Players take turns being the encryptor, providing clues to their teammates. At the start of each round, the encryptor for each team draws a code card from their deck containing a 3-digit code of the numbers 1 through 4, for example 314. This code identifies the 3 keywords that apply for the round and the order in which they must be encrypted. The encryptor then gives 3 clues corresponding to the indicated keywords. In future rounds, these same clues can never be used again. In the first round, the encryptor's team must determine the code based on their knowledge of the keywords. Starting with the second round, both teams attempt to guess the code, with the opposing team using all prior clues as additional information. If the opposing team is correct, they earn an interception token. If the encryptor's teammates guess the code incorrectly, they earn a miscommunication token. After both teams attempt to decipher both codes, the round ends. After each round, if no one has won or lost, a new round begins with a new encryptor and new codes. However, if a team has successfully earned 2 interception tokens, or their opponent has been penalized with 2 miscommunication tokens, they win the game and the illustrious title of Codemaster General. Decrypto was designed by Thomas Dagenet L'Esperance and was first published in 2018 by Scorpion Mask.
Thanks, Chris, for that overview. So Decrypto has a little bit more of a setup to it, I would say. There are some components that are completely interesting, how you set it up and how you put these cards in these slots, and it has that almost that red visor where you have a code, just a jumbled thing, and you put it in and it reveals the word to you. I think that the setup for this is, again, very interesting. It's a little bit more, feels like a little bit more secret spy-ish as you're playing it, a little bit more decrypted for that. So as we go around just thinking of these things, let's discuss Decrypto and the things that we really like about this game.
I mean, I think this game lends itself that you can play this game on the couch. So it's easier to get other people involved, because if you are in a party setting and people are just sitting on a huge sectional, I think this is a game where you can put on the coffee table, have like the decoders kind of go to their sides, kind of split off on the couch. But I know I've played this game a lot of times. Instead of around a table, you could play it around like a coffee table and like a sectional kind of group setting. I also think there's a lot of cool mechanics that this game does. I think it does it well as far as in this genre of word associated games. I think it has just a good kind of vibe as you're taking words. If you play this game well, you're taking words and you're trying to use less obvious words in the beginning, because eventually you're going to have to narrow down those words because the other team's constantly getting clues based off of what you're saying. So I think this game, as you're playing it, there's a kind of a meta after you get to know this game that goes beyond just a simple party game, and you can actually play it at a higher level.
Yeah, I think that's why I lost, because I went with the easier words at first, because when you're giving out those clues, the one thing I do like about the game is you can continue to think about different clues for the words that are up there. You may not have to put them in order, but you can kind of go through what's been said and try to make those connections. And it's not all on you, because you take your turn and then, your teammate's going to take a turn. So it's not all on one person, which it's like with some other games. I enjoy that about it, just because it gives you that ability to not feel like everybody's waiting for you, because you can be thinking about that while the game's going on or while the other team's taking their turn.
And this game does have a timer, so
Yes.
that you can't take forever, and maybe it does start to jack up the pressure when you get to that point. I enjoyed my turns as when I was the encryptor and I had to give the words, and finding that challenge between I've got to make it difficult enough or maybe not easy enough to where the opposing team's going to be able to figure it out, but I can't make it too crazy because I've still got to do it to where the person who's on my team can get them. But then I also enjoy choosing those words that I know is going to throw the other team off to where, okay, they've got a couple words, but if I use this word that is a totally different area or avenue, or maybe I'm using it that it's fire and I'm going to give ice and know that that's still linked to the word, but it's not going to give you any chance of being able to figure it out on the other side. I enjoyed taking that tack to where you just see this look on the other team's face where they're like, where the heck does this word go? How does it fit in?
Yeah.
And trying to be clever like that and finding those opportunities to be clever.
I really like that, what you just said, Chris, with the game within kind of the broader game. There's a little bit of a gameplay between you and your partner as you're playing. There were a couple times, I know Chris and I were on a team for a couple rounds, and we're looking at each other and we're going, oh, yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. Like, because as you pointed out, if you see fire, you know that there's ice there, or vice versa. And then you're also trying to go, how can I completely stump the opposite side of the table so that our code can come out correctly as you start to guess what that is. And I really enjoy, I think this is a really brilliant wordplay game. If you know a lot of words, again, if you have the word mind and you use big words or you know anything about them, or you can associate them with a lot of different other types of words and synonyms and adjectives and things like that, I think you're really going to like this game.
Yeah, you're always engaged as well, even when the other team's giving their clues out, because you're trying to pay attention to what they're doing so you can figure it out. So it's not where you are taking your turn and then they're taking their turn. You're involved both ways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think the pad too that comes with the game is actually a really great idea. So you can write down the words as you're going through, and then you're looking at this continuous list. And let's just say you played kind of 5 circles through, you're looking at 5 words and you're going, how do all these words kind of go together? I know Chris and I were playing the one, and I think the word was star because they had like Death Star and different things in it. And as we were getting more words, I'm like, this is the only word that makes sense. So we were, I think, working a little bit more creatively, thinking. But it's interesting because how are you guys doing star on your side of the board? You know, you thought death. Did you understand that as well? So it's really, really neat.
Yeah. I think we did make a minor error when we were playing as we were shuffling up the cards. I think when you shuffle up the initial cards, you don't want to put them back in and reshuffle them, because there was one game where I got the same code sequence. It was like 1, 4, 5. And then later on down the game, I had 1, 4, 5, and it was really difficult to do that.
The instructions call it out and say that, no, that might happen sometimes, and you just got to deal with it. So they specifically call that out, and I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but the rule book says you could get them back to back.
That's why I wanted to ask if that was an error, because when that happened to me, I was really scratching my head and having to give the same 3 clues. It would be something different if, David's on my team and he gets the same sequence of number, but when it's you getting the same sequence of number, it's a little challenging. That's all I'm going to say.
The one thing it does well, I know Chris had mentioned a timer, and the way the timer works in this game, I think, is really actually a great mechanic. So basically, as the 2 clue givers are having to come up with their code words, whoever gets done first flips over that timer and then puts the pressure on the other team that they have to fill it out before that timer runs out, which I think is a great little simple way to apply a little bit of pressure, but at the same time, both of those 2 members who are writing the clues to begin with, they kind of have the same amount of time until one of them decides, hey, I'm just going to go for it, and then flip it over. And I think that just that little nuance of, hey, it has a little bit of pressure sometimes, or you want to put a little bit of pressure on the other team and maybe come up with something simpler, helps this game move a little bit faster, which is nice.
Mm-hmm. I also enjoyed, as we were going through the decoding, Daniela mentioned earlier that we were on the same team for a couple of our plays, and there were times when we were trying to figure out, okay, what might the other team be telling us here? And again, just the way Daniela was thinking of it differently than I was. And I remember one time you had sort of an insight to where I was like, hey, we have no idea where this word goes or what this word might be doing, but we could deduce what it wouldn't be. And you were thinking, okay, I don't know that it could be this, but I feel pretty confident it just doesn't fit in over here. And so we were trying to look at it from that standpoint of, okay, maybe I don't know what it is, but I know what it isn't. And I thought that was just an interesting way to think that I wasn't doing, but then I was from that point on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I actually really enjoy deduction games, so that's probably why too. All right, so let's go around and let's talk about some of the things that maybe are hard on this game, maybe a little bit frustrating, or things that, I might not teach somebody this game. I mean, overall, for me, I think this is a little bit harder to teach than, as we talked about, Codenames. However, for me personally, the payoff is much more fun on this. But again, it's a little bit more involved. David taught all of us, or refreshed our memories as we replayed this game, and it was one of those things again. Oh, let's just start playing it, and you'll get the vibe of it. And it's not difficult by any means, but I would say a little more difficult if you're comparing it to Codenames.
Definitely harder to teach, a little bit harder to learn. But I also think it's one of those that once you understand how the rules work, then you're like, well, why was that so hard to learn?
Yeah,
right? It's pretty straightforward.
No, I agree. I think that even the worksheet itself, if you're just trying to refresh yourself and come back into it, it will take a game or two, I think, to get back into this. But once you do, I think the payoff is a lot more than other games of this type.
Yes,
for sure.
Our fifth meeple was here when we were playing this one time. And I guess if we get to his votes, maybe we'll see it. But I don't think he was a fan of either one of these.
No.
It's just not his type of game. But he wanted nothing to do with this.
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
And I think that's just okay. Look at what the game is, and I can see where this is not going to be up certain people's alleys. They're not going to have fun at this at all. Whether it's just they don't enjoy that type of game, their mind doesn't work a certain way. Whatever the case is, I can see where I really enjoy this because I do word games all the time. But I can also understand why some people will be like, why would I want to do that?
Yeah, you got to have a vocabulary to play this game.
So, Daniela, early on, you mentioned that you liked how that little, decoder is. You slide that in, the little red screen, and behind it, then you can see that card. I think that's kind of gimmicky, and it takes a little bit away from me. It reminds me of opening up a cereal box, pulling out the little decoder and looking on the box of cereal and trying to find,
That's why I like it.
Yeah.
Man. That's why I like it. I love those types of things. So
the only thing I would say about it is I wish it was a little bit clearer.
Yeah, if you got some eye issue, for sure.
Yeah, looking
Not
at
that you do, but
once you know the words, you can jot those down and make a note for yourself. But it's just a little gimmicky, and that's fine. I don't mind it. It just kind of wrinkles me the wrong way. It reminds me
they're not big. They're pretty small screens.
Yeah,
when you're trying to look through them.
I think that might be a point too. If they were maybe honestly twice as big, it might be a little bit easier, especially if you're playing with a group, because that is a little. It's probably like 4x7 or something like that. It's quite small. What you're playing with, and I get it. You don't want the other team to see, but
they need a jumbo edition like sequence. Jumbo edition, yeah. So
yeah, I don't know how many cards are included with that as well.
There's a lot because they're double-sided. Yeah,
they are double-sided. That's probably why they do that, so you can't see the different cards.
True. Yeah. And yeah, I guess as far as I like it too. I think it's like, again, spy, espionage. You're kind of looking back and forth at it, and it's kind of like, ooh, let's decode what words we get. It's a little bit of surprise for you as well.
Be sure to drink your Ovaltine.
Let's go back to David. He's going to tell us about all the things that you can do and buy with Decrypto.
Yeah, so right now, if you're looking for this game, Decrypto, it is on Amazon for $24.49. You could also probably go find this at a Walmart, at a Target. It's pretty mass market at this point. I think a good price point, though, at this game would probably be around $20 new. You could probably find a sale on it. But on the used market, it's holding its value a little bit better than Codenames right now. It's around $15 for most places I've seen. You can maybe get a little bit cheaper deal if you're going somewhere local, but it's still holding its value comparative to other party games at a decent rate. So that is something to look forward to. If you do buy this game, I think it will hold some more value than other party games of this genre.
All right.
Yeah, if you're going to bling this out, get a bigger timer so everybody can see it. Now, this is a great game. Go to the store, pick it up, play it. Don't be afraid to wear out the cards. The game's readily available. It's not going to go out of print anytime soon. Fantastic game.
Final thoughts, Chris?
Yeah, I enjoyed this game. Took a tiny bit of time for it to click, but it was all of 2 seconds or something. And I enjoyed it. I think if you're a fan of word games, if you're a fan of deduction games, and especially if you're a fan of both, go get this game. I've heard this referred to as the Codenames killer and sort of replacing Codenames. I think there's room for both depending on what you're in the mood for, but I did really enjoy this game.
Yeah, I kind of parrot all of Chris's comments, and I'm actually looking for this game every time I go to Half Price Books. So if I can find it there, I'm definitely going to pick it up. But for now, I'm going to borrow David's copy. Well, guys, we just got our burn notice, so let's sanitize the scene and escape into today's Battle of the Funnest.
everyone, the moment of truth has arrived. It's time to separate the men from the boys and the games from the toys. We're pitting these games head-to-head against each other in the ultimate face-off. In one corner, weighing in at 1.26 out of 5 with an overall BGG rating of 7.5. Found in a dark alley wearing a trench coat and sunglasses, forming a tight bond. James Bond with every player. No joke with the cloak and putting the swagger and dagger, the assassin's passion, the sultan of secrets, the prize that decries the rise of bad spies, Codenames. In the other corner, weighing in at 1.82 out of 5, with an overall BGG rating of 7.8. Delivering the 411 as easy as 1, 2, 3. Reciting words as absurd as a code-cracking bird. A cipher lifer with a prescription for encryption. The intelligent interceptor. The algorithmic emperor. The cream of the cryptologic crop. Decrypto. And now, let's find out who cracks the code in today's Battle of the Funnest Showdown. All right, guys, you know how this works. We're going to evaluate these games head-to-head in 5 different categories: theme and production, mechanisms, value for your time, replayability, and the fun factor. The game that gets the most votes wins each category, and the game that wins the most categories takes the prize in our Battle of the Funnest. All right, so let's get started with theme and production. I'll go to Daniela.
I'm going to go with Decrypto for the simple fact that I feel it feels a little bit more spy, feels a little bit more, as you can look at the cards. I like the setup. I like the word pad with it. I'm more into that, and I feel that theme comes through better with Decrypto. Pete.
I'm going to go more on the production side. I enjoy the Codenames setup. The cards are fairly chunky when you're putting them on to say which agents are done. It's easy to see the cards. I like how the cards also have, it's faced both ways. So the clue giver also can see the word. I think that's really, really important. As I mentioned earlier, with Decrypto, I kind of like the gimmick. I kind of don't. It's just not doing it for me. So I'm going to stick with Codenames for really winning it in the production category. Let's go to Chris.
Yeah, when I look at theme, for me, Decrypto feels like you're cracking a code. Codenames, for me, someone would have to tell me, okay, yeah, we're identifying spies. You have to know that that's what the theme is to realize, okay, that's what the theme is. And then there's really, to me, not much production in Codenames, whereas Decrypto has a couple of cool things that maybe Pete doesn't like, but Danielle and I do. So I think in both theme and production, not that Codenames, oh man, what a crappy production. It just doesn't need it. It's cards. That's pretty much what it is. But the theme for me really comes out in Decrypto. So I'm going to go with Decrypto. David, where are you at?
Yeah, so for this one, I'm actually going to have to join that side of the table too. I'm going to go with Decrypto on this one. I do feel like the theme just resonates more. You know, as we go there, I feel like we're breaking codes while I'm playing the game. Codenames, I have to think about, hey, what are we actually doing? Are we actually guessing spies? Doesn't always cross over for me either.
All right, so 3-1, Decrypto defeats Codenames in theme and production. Let's go to mechanisms. David, back to you.
Just for the simple fact, one has a timer over the other. I feel like there's a lot of different things that they do well, at different levels, but the timer mechanism and the way it's utilized in Decrypto, it's the little things sometimes that make a great game. And for this, little touch to me makes this game really kind of flow, and it doesn't really get bogged down. So for that reason, I'm going to go with Decrypto. I'm going to kick it over to Daniela.
Yeah, I actually have nothing more to say on it except for what kind of David said, so I'm not going to even try. Chris.
So just for the record, you're Decrypto.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to go with Codenames. There's not a huge number of mechanisms in either one of these, and in fact, there's just pretty much a very simple mechanism for Codenames, but I think there's just so much wrapped up, and I'm going to give you a word and a number, and that's all I've got to work with, and I've got to do a lot with it. I like the way, again, it's simple mechanism, a lot wrapped into it. I'm going with Codenames, and I'm going to Pete.
I would prefer the mechanisms in Decrypto. There's just a little bit more of a game in it. I enjoy the interaction with your teammates. It just gives me that little bit more on the mechanism. Yeah, we're both guessing words and trying to figure out those words, but I like how it's done better in Decrypto.
All right, so 3-1 again. Decrypto takes out Codenames in mechanisms. Value for your time. Pete, back to you.
I'm going to go with Decrypto again because I enjoy the game a little bit better. I'm not sure time-wise which takes longer, but it feels more like a game to me, whereas playing Codenames, nobody really keeps score. At the end of the game, one side wins and that's it. I'm not even sure it's worth putting into my chart to figure out that I've played the game or not. So for value for the time, I just enjoy crypto. It's more of a game to me. Let's go to my left on David.
Codenames, you're looking about a 10-15 minute game on normal games like that. Decrypto's running, I looked at my BGG stats app, it's running about 30 to 45 minutes, so it's about twice as long. But when I play the games, I just don't feel like Decrypto in my head ever takes that long. So therefore, the value that I'm getting, I must be enjoying myself. Not saying I'm not enjoying myself at Codenames, but the fact that I don't realize that it's double the amount of time it takes me in Decrypto is why I'm going to go with Decrypto on this one. So kick it over to Chris.
All right, I'm going to go against again. I'm going with Codenames, and not because I necessarily think it's better. I think both of these have really good value for your time. Yeah, Decrypto's longer. There's more of a game in there. And so to me, it's kind of a tie. Which way do I go? I'll go with the shorter one. Because if someone doesn't like it, okay, then we can just switch to something else. If someone does, we can get more of it in there. I like that idea. I'll go with Codenames. Daniela, where are we at?
Yeah, I'm actually going to go with Codenames as well, splitting this down the middle, because I think where you can kind of fudge this game a little bit is if there is somebody that likes a certain theme, again, whether it's Disney or Marvel, I think you can get them interested in it to play the game. And so for us, and I think kind of how we think about games anymore is trying to get more people interested. And for me, that is worth my time. So I'm going to go Codenames.
All right, so we have 2-2 tie. We have to go to our fifth meeple, Dave. Remember, we said earlier we didn't feel like Dave liked either one of them. So it'll be an interesting take on which was the better value for his time.
He said, I voted for Decrypto since both teams were actively trying to solve the puzzle at the same time, and even afterwards still trying to figure out the clues.
All right, so Decrypto 3-2, thanks to our fifth meeple, Dave. We go to replayability. I'll go first. Again, I think both of these are probably relatively close for me. I'm going to go with Decrypto just because there are so many words in that box. Even though, depending on how, there's 25 words out on a table at a time, the number of combinations you could have in Codenames is pretty big. But I still think that just by the nature of how the games work, it's a different game each time you play Decrypto. I'll go to David.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Decrypto on this one too, just for the same things kind of Chris said. I don't want to really beat a dead horse, so I'm going to move on. I'm going to go over to Pete.
I'm going to go with Codenames. I think when you lay out all those cards and have to come up with one word that does not include that spy, that really just adds that complexity in it. It takes the number of possibilities that you can get, makes it a lot higher. In Decrypto, yeah, there's 4 different words that you're working on. Yes, you're going to do it over and over again, but you may see those words again. We talked about how many, show up. And I think if you have that one word, you can use those words again for that clue in a future game, or you may not be able to do that in Codenames. Daniela, you with me?
I don't know what you just said, actually. So I'm actually, for me personally, replayability is Decrypto, because this is a game that I want to play over and over again. I want to play more rounds of this game. I want to get other people involved in it. So that's my vote.
All right, so 3-1 again. Decrypto over Codenames in replayability. 4-0 overall. We'll see what happens in the fun factor. I'll go first on that one as well. I'm going to start off with the vote for Codenames. I have fun playing both of these. I tend to think of, the fun factor, which one am I smiling more on? There are certain times when I'm smiling on each of these, but I think I'm doing it more with Codenames. I'm going to go with Codenames, and I'll kick it over to Daniela.
Yeah, I actually voted for the same thing, Codenames, on this one, because if I am having fun, other people involved in fun, for the same reason that you said, Chris, we were kind of huddled and a little bit quieter and a little bit more hush-hush. I think Codenames had a bit better camaraderie with everybody kind of playing and teamy atmosphere of it. David.
Yeah, I'm going to have to give this one to Decrypto. And the reason why is because when I think of fun factor, I think of sometimes which game am I being more clever in? And I feel like I just have more opportunities to be clever in Decrypto than I do with Codenames, when they're essentially a lot of times kind of the same in the same kind of genre. To me, it's where can I be more clever? I like, that feeling of, hey, I just pulled this one off. Maybe I pulled the wool over their eyes. They don't have a clue now what the code is because we said a crazy word, and I like that. So I'm going to go with Decrypto on that. I'm going to kick it over to Pete.
Yeah, Decrypto I like better. I think what throws it for me is I think in Codenames, there's just more downtime. There's more quietness. And when I'm playing a game and I want to have fun, I want that interaction with my teammates and figuring out what the other team's trying to do. So I'm going to go with Decrypto, more so just because Codenames, I think when I'm playing it, it's just more of a quieter game. I know Daniela said that, you're working together. You are, but I think there's that quietness. There's that you can't give away little clues. It just takes away from the game to me.
No, I feel the same way about Decrypto for what it's worth. We're not supposed to try to change each other's opinions, but Decrypto, we're sitting here just writing words down because we can't say anything out loud. It was a very quiet game, I felt, when we were playing Decrypto. And
I feel like with the Codenames too, people are going, oh, they're doing those noises, going, like how it's a little bit more. I don't know. To me, it's. I think there was a little more interaction.
Pete doesn't care. He's sticking with Decrypto, which means it's 2-2, and we have to go to our fifth meeple, Dave, to see if we have a total sweep by Decrypto or if Codenames can eke one out.
Dave's dead to me. He says, I choose Codenames since I just enjoyed it more.
Wow, Dave, way to put the detail to it. But all right, Codenames finally pulls one out on the fun factor, which can be a pretty important one, winning fun factor 3-2. However, with a score of 4-1, Decrypto dials it in and wins today's Battle of the Funnest.
Well, folks, that brings us to the end of yet another episode of the Fifth Meeple Board Game Podcast. We hope you enjoyed our take on Codenames and Decrypto. And if you'd like to get in touch, just email us at thefifthmeeple@gmail.com or reach out to us on Facebook or Instagram. Thanks again for listening, and until next time, may you always find what you're looking for.
Adios, amigos.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks, Pete.
I need to get my thoughts together first here.
All right, let's talk about then some of the things. Let's talk about our frustrations.
I don't know about your copy, but my copy has a sand timer in it.
Does it?
Someone played with Pete and was like,
yeah.
Pete takes way too long.
And they snuck a timer.
Snuck this timer in there. Thomas D.
I don't know if anybody knows what that thing is called. It's very cool. But all right. Well, let's.
Same old crap.